Hey everyone, this podcast is part of Story Mode, the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. You can support us and gain access to other great exclusive podcasts at patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds.
Now
we don't have to be friends anymore. We can finally work.
We can finally work. Holy shit, Adam.
God, it was exhausting, just like the how are yous.
Listen. Hi, everybody.
Hey, everyone.
My name is David Bell.
My name's Adam Ganser.
And we just watched Space Jam, A New Legacy.
Are they forgoing the 2? Are they forgoing
What?
the 2? Are they refusing to call it Space Jam 2?
No 2, Adam. Jesus
Okay.
Christ.
I noticed they gave it a subtitle.
Jesus Christ.
Welcome, King James. I am the king of this domain. This is the serververse.
What'd you do to my son? Where's Dom?
The only way you're getting your son back is if you and I play a little basketball. Pete, send this clown to the rejects.
Wait.
I mean, I'm just saying, why? Why can't they call it 2? Why is that wrong? You know?
Yeah.
You know?
No, I understand. All right, so first of all, folks, Tom cannot be here. He's going to be out for, a few weeks as long as he needs.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
talked about it on Twitter. We don't have to get into that. So, Adam, thank you so much for being new Tom.
I didn't agree to be new Tom.
New Tom.
I agreed to fill in for Tom.
New Tom.
I mean, I would have had to get dressed up in a suit just to
that's true.
approach his professionalism. I don't know.
Yeah. All right, getting that out of the way. I was like, this also doesn't involve space. And then I realized it. Well, here's the thing, Adam. Cyberspace.
Yeah. Fuck you.
Cyberspace. It fits. It works.
No.
Yeah.
I just want to disclose up top, I actually have a couple of friends from film school who were the creators of this movie.
Wow.
Yeah. So I don't want to. I'm not. It's not a name drop thing. I just want to say, like, hey, congrats, boys. It's a big success. Congrats.
It is a big success. Yes.
Yeah.
That's true. I'll try to be nice about it.
Yeah.
About this movie.
I was thinking that the whole way. I was like, I'm gonna have to really think about this. Yeah.
I guess this kind of plays into it.
Yeah.
The movie itself, it's no different than Space Jam, the first one.
Not really.
In the commercialism and what it's trying to do.
Yeah.
I just have a question is, do you think there are people in this movie that believed in it on a personal level, or do you think this is mostly a cynical paycheck?
I think that it's somewhat personal for LeBron. Somewhat. Here's why I think that. The rumor in the world has been there were 2 reasons for him to move to the Lakers. One of them is to be in movies and expand his brand, which that's what this is, and that would be a cynical reason. Right. The other one is because he wants the Lakers to draft his son, like his actual son, and for them to play as father and son on the Lakers before he retires. That's been a rumor for about 5 years. Yeah.
Is that the older son in this?
I don't think his actual son was in the movie.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that they're referring to Bronny, who you'll see LeBron tweet like his son's games and stuff, which is very heartwarming.
Yeah.
And he gets in fights with refs and stuff at his son's games. It's pretty cool. So I think that the plot here, like the structure of this movie, does suggest that this is a more personal story for LeBron than you'd think right off the bat.
Right. So I did notice when you go online and you look at reviews, they seem to be, at least audience reviews, critical reviews have given it, low marks.
Yeah.
Which they would for Space Jam.
Of course
I'm
they
not
would. Yeah.
concerned about that. There was an Onion article about like a 6-year-old waiting for the New York Times review of Space Jam to know whether or not to see it. It's
Perfect.
like who gives a shit what critics think about this movie.
Right.
audience reviews seem to be dependent on whether or not they're a fan of LeBron.
100%.
Yeah,
what did you think it was going to be? Yeah,
it's very funny to me.
Yeah, if he had not been in LA when he made this movie, like it's like strategic for him to be here when this movie gets released, right? Because like everybody in LA likes him now because he plays for the Lakers. If he was still in the fucking Heat, can you even like this movie doesn't exist if he's on the Heat? Probably, right?
Right. I don't know. I don't know.
I
sports.
don't think it does. Yeah, I don't think it does.
I know nothing about sports. It just occurred to me that like this is like when a oddly political movie comes out, or like the new Ghostbusters got politicized, where like the reviews are clearly like no one's actually reviewing the movie. It has nothing to do with quality of movie.
Well,
it's just teams. It's just people who are like their team.
I like my team, and he's on my team, so I like the movie. This movie is also very carefully constructed to be like the basketball piece of it is very much like Go Lakers. And here's why I'm saying that. He didn't pick any star who plays for a legitimate contender against the Lakers. So the people he put in this movie that were actual basketball players are Damian Lillard, who is a big star, but like his team's not a contender against the Lakers. I'm sorry, Trailblazers fans, but that's probably accurate. And he didn't put Steph Curry in it. He didn't put Durant in it. He didn't, you know what I mean? He didn't put these people.
I don't know what you mean, but I know. I know what you mean. Yes, I don't know sports.
To contrast, Jordan put Charles Barkley in the movie.
So he put his actual rivals in the movie.
Correct. LeBron put Anthony Davis, his teammate, on the Lakers, his big star teammate on the Lakers, and then a number of WNBA stars who it's awesome that they were represented, but are not his competitors. Right. And then like Damian Lillard and a couple of players from the Warriors who weren't Steph Curry. So like it's very safe in that way.
Yeah, I don't even know if LeBron or Jordan chose, to put. I assume they have some say.
They have a lot of say, man. They must have a lot. Oh yeah, dude, this movie doesn't exist if it's not exactly what LeBron wants.
I think it's the same with the original Space Jam. It's two major properties kind of butting, or not butting heads, but having to share space. So like Looney Tunes also has specific rules to it.
Sure.
I'm sure borrowing a lot of these. Well, not borrowing, it's Warner Brothers. Using the Warner Brothers properties. Actually, they probably didn't have to ask anybody's permission.
That's exactly
to portray anybody in any way.
Yep. Clearly they didn't.
So I want to talk about what I would say. First of all, how did you like this movie?
Okay. All right. So I thought it was long. The father-son stuff did end up working for me by the end.
I want to say my number one criticism was Space Jam, the original, is 90 minutes. This is 2 hours.
It's too long.
You cut that shit right out.
It's too long.
I would have liked this movie probably like 50% more if it was 90 minutes.
Yeah.
The length made a big difference.
I would say, I know that some people are going to like instantly try to destroy me for saying this. I don't think it's really that much worse than the original Space Jam.
I think it's becoming a popular, like, I think for a while there's been a push of people pointing out like, Space Jam isn't good.
No.
And I think people are starting to realize that. It's like, you grew up on it. It's a very cynical film.
Well, so the one thing I'll say that makes Space Jam have a little bit of legacy in this old bear's heart is Space Jam was at a unique point in Michael Jordan's career, which is, if I remember it correctly, which is before he came back to basketball, right? It was in that period of time where he retired and he was trying to be a baseball player, and everyone's like, come on, man, please come back. And Space Jam sort of was like the beginning of him coming back in a way. That's how I remember it. And so that really matters for him and for... Like, so that in that way, it's kind of an important movie for like 90s sports.
It also does have nostalgia for people.
Oh yeah,
and
of course.
It's technically an original idea for a movie. So I'll give it that. Like,
yeah.
There's a uniqueness to the original Space Jam.
this movie is definitely also about legacy. Like, I feel like LeBron feels like he has to make it to be the greatest player of all time. Like,
Sure.
I suspect that that's part of it, is like, I also have to make a Space Jam. Like, seriously, I really believe that. And also, it has basically the plot from Hook. If you remember the movie Hook, like, it basically has the plot from Hook. Yeah.
I guess that's what I was going to get at, is I do think the original Space Jam was a little less lazy. Like, it felt like this movie is about an algorithm that works for Warner Brothers and makes up movies. Yeah. And I was like, that's interesting, considering that this movie feels like it was the product of that algorithm.
It sure does. Yeah, it really does.
And that's it feels like, I guess that's what it is. It does feel like there's a soul here, but it feels like it had to hide in the shadows because it's meta, but it's still what it is. Like, it's trying to point out the soullessness of filmmaking, and like stuff where like the tunes are sad when they get turned into CGI versions of themselves.
Yeah, why? Right, why?
I think that's a nod to the fact that so many remakes of cartoons are doing that. Mm-hmm. Like the new Rugrats, they look terrible. Mm-hmm. So like they're like sad because they're like, oh no, we're soulless CGI versions. But I guarantee that was the studio being like, you got to make them CGI, and so they had to work it in.
I thought it was weird when I thought it was the rules on when LeBron was animated versus when he wasn't.
Yeah,
were very unclear. I couldn't figure out that ruling at all, like how it worked.
Well, I'd love to get into how this world works with you.
I feel like I know. I also want to do that. Do we want to do general impressions? Like, finish that up before we get into the wormhole?
I feel like, until we get into the. There'll be time for that.
Yeah. Okay, great. Can I say? Look, like, I think that visually, this was a very fun movie to look at.
Yeah,
like, it was very pretty. Like, all pieces of it were pretty. It looked state of the art in a way that Space Jam, I guess, must have, but this felt a lot more state of the art than Space Jam ever did to me. Yeah, so in that way, it's cool.
Whoever you know and whatever they did on this movie, they did a good job. It looks really good. Even I would say the writing for a kids movie is fine. It's good.
There's like 8 screenwriters, by the way.
Yeah, I was about to say it kind of gives off that it's like the movie feels like it's tired, like in writing sense.
I have a very difficult time as a movie watcher accepting the idea, like the entrenched nature of movie universes, as being such an obvious thing that has to exist that they can now be the plot of movies. Like, that bothers me on a very deep level. I'm like, no, man, I don't want to talk about like fucking companies acquiring all movies. Like, that's not a thing I'm interested in talking about.
Right. That's where this movie, I think the criticism where people are like, fuck this movie. And I think this applies to the first Space Jam, but more so to this, as this is Warner Brothers like trying to like celebrate themselves.
Oh, so much. It's really rough in that way.
Yeah, it's really rough because they're just a big corporation. And it's also, there's a really... A horrible reminder is whenever they're like, let's whip out the new stuff, you realize, oh, they don't have new stuff.
Right, it's like, all the Matrix.
Yeah, it's an Austin Powers and shit.
Austin Powers, wow.
Yeah. It reminds me of like that character in Napoleon Dynamite who's like obsessed with his old days as a football legend. Like, it's that where Warner Brothers is like, remember all this stuff we had in the 2000s? And it's like, we do, Warner Brothers. We do. How's things holding up now? And then they have to reference like the Zack Snyder Snyderverse Wonder Woman, and it's like, yeah, not going so great now, is it, Warner Brothers?
Exactly. It's like there are some things that thankfully they fucking left off, but like, can you imagine like they were an ass hair away from bringing back like fucking the Sex and the City ladies to cheer, and like fucking Tony Soprano. You know what
Tony Soprano. Like, oh my god!
Can you imagine?
The one that surprised everybody, of course, was Rick and Morty. But like Rick and Morty, it's It's doable. It would. Well, I mean,
They had
speaking
an,
of
they had
Tony
an
Soprano,
acceptable. They had an acceptable cameo. It was
they
acceptable.
do. Yeah. They do have the fucking Clockwork Orange guys.
No, are those guys in it?
Yeah, the Droogs. They're in the background.
My
Did you not
God.
see them?
No, dude. There were so many things that I was like, I'm just gonna try to enjoy this movie. Like,
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. Wow. Okay, I didn't see that. That's upsetting. That should not. They should not be.
They
at
should
at
not
a children's
be in it.
basketball game, right?
There was that whole news that Pepe Le Pew was cut because he assaults women.
But the
And it's
Droogs
like,
are there.
But you
Yeah.
have the Droogs. What the fuck? Yeah, they're in the background. It's fucked
Nightmare. Fucking nightmare. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, it just seems like the real criteria was like, what are things that people still like? Let's put those things in the background, right?
up. Yeah, and it's just that's the part that felt, because the original Space Jam didn't do that. They didn't do that.
No,
it
they
was
didn't.
just the Looney Tunes and these the fake the Goon Squad and like a real just an audience. And by doing that, it just felt like it had that Ready Player One feeling, except
Yep.
Ready Player One at least reached out across companies. Like, that's the one thing you can say about Ready Player One. It's they understood that in this world, it's not just the one company that's making the movie. They kind of did a Who Framed Roger Rabbit, where they're like, look, if we're going to do this, we need everybody, right?
It really does feel like this movie is a basketball themed Disneyland park.
Yeah.
Like it's like that's what they're trying to do, right? And it's just like, I don't want to engage with movies on that level. As a movie watcher, I don't want to engage in your business plan. Like, I understand Marvel has been very successful with this and managed to get people invested in like phases and shit. It's a nightmare though. I don't want to watch Jim Carrey's The Mask cheer alongside Danny DeVito's Penguin. Like, I don't want to watch that. Come on, I don't care.
It feels like everything's collapsing in on itself.
Really?
Like,
yeah.
it really feels like that these movies have, like, this movie is almost like a weird reminder that movies have never been worse. Or they feel like they've never been worse. And I should amend that by saying blockbusters, where it's like they've never been more corporate. It's people rooting for corporations. People, like, these heroes, that's basically what they represent at this point. And speaking of which, it's hard to do a movie like this and not recognize Marvel.
There's such a conspicuous absence for what this
Yeah.
is. Right. I mean, but, the movie set the parameters very clearly. It's the
Right.
Warnerverse,
Yes, they did. They absolutely did. It makes sense in the in the movie, I guess.
But it's dumb
In the context.
it's dumb in the experience of what this movie should be. Like if you wanted to do Ready Player One, but for like commercialization and basketball, because that's
Right.
what this is, right? It's like what if movie or like the algorithm that generates all entertainment also absorbed LeBron James? You know what I mean? Like, that's the premise of the movie. Well, then I wouldn't be so mad at like Stranger Things kids being there and like,
Also, sorry, do you finish your thought?
No. I think that, like, I actually think people could get on board with a meta commentary as long as it wasn't about the actual Hollywood business piece.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well,
Like, that would make it more acceptable to us, I think.
yeah, the problem is that much like Ready Player One, they can start the idea, but they're not, like, they're too legally tied up to be able to actually finish the idea, because the way the idea would finish would come down hard on their companies. What this is creating, there's a part at the end where John Cheadle says to him, like, isn't this great? We'll just do this forever and ever, over and over again. And that's the threat. And it's like, what you're doing with this, with these movies.
Right.
And that's what it is that they're setting up a story about an algorithm, a cynical algorithm made by corporate studio executives who just want to please people, that essentially churns out, essentially absorbs all the art and churns them out as like icons, as like useless icons. And that is an interesting idea that Warner Brothers couldn't follow up on because it's about them.
Right, and they didn't want to go the full distance. Like, they didn't want to do a full, like, critique.
Right,
they were like, what if we set up our idea to be bad, but then really just celebrated it?
Right. Ready Player One does a similar thing where they're like, let's talk about nostalgia, but then they don't really. They talk about people's need for nostalgia in a dissolving world, which is a really interesting idea that applies to now, and then they don't follow through. And so, like, it's weird because this is just a kids' movie, so, like, you could argue they don't need to, but they kind of set themselves up. So, you know.
Yeah, they didn't follow through with the premise of the movie. The premise of the movie should have freed all these properties from being contained in the serververse.
Right.
And they didn't. Because if that would happen, then that would be like Warner Brothers not acquiring more movies and stuff, which is what we would like. That would have been a very heroic move.
Right.
Know?
They couldn't be. They had to like it there in this universe.
Exactly. Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, I know.
Okay. And I want to now get into the world, if that's all right. Because I have a question about that.
I have one for you. Go ahead.
Okay. I have a few questions.
Oh, great. Yeah.
So I guess let's go through. It starts with fucking LeBron getting coached by Avon Barksdale.
Loved it. That was my favorite moment of the movie. I was like, yeah. I root for any of those Wire guys. Any of those Wire guys, I'm like, yeah, man, fuck yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Loved it.
And then he gets a Game Boy from a friend.
A hand-me-down Game Boy, which he plays for a total of 8 seconds.
For the time, that's still an expensive goddamn piece of equipment. His coach yells at him, so he throws it in the trash.
Yep. Yeah.
And I was like, dude, your friend gave you that.
Oh, I thought it was bafflingly cruel to everybody in that equation. It was like,
give it to another kid.
Yeah.
Or just give it to another kid. Yeah, everybody is shitty in that scene.
Agreed.
And considering that, like, LeBron is just stupid rich in this, and they don't hide it, which I appreciate, because the original Space Jam was like, here's Michael Jordan's, neighborhood home, and I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, who believes that?
But, like, yeah, it was just like, come on, man, that Game Boy, that means something to people. Don't just throw that in the trash, but okay.
Now that's a universe I would have rather entered personally, the Nintendoverse. Like I would.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There we go. I would have been fucking into that. You know.
That would have been amazing.
Yeah, Link and LeBron teaming up against Ganondorf and fucking Bowser or whatever. Anyway, that's a whole other thing.
So they set up. They super set up where we're heading with this, right? Because he has a fight with his son, and he's like, video games are not. It's video games versus sports. He's like, this isn't a game.
Yeah, that's right. I learned the right thing from that early lesson, son. You see, video games equals bad at life.
Yeah.
Right.
You really summed it up. It didn't occur to me that this was Hook. I just put this as like, this is the story of a father beating his son. And I was like, what the fuck's happening here? Because it's mostly just him trying to beat his son at basketball. I was like, the fuck?
It's like LeBron, just like Peter Pan. Like, so for everybody who's not making that connection, let me explain what I mean. So
it's like Hook. It's like Hook if he had to like fight his son at the end.
But that's exactly what was being set up in Hook.
Oh yeah,
that's the thing is like, so the plot of Hook, very brief recap. Peter Pan has become an adult and forgotten that he's Peter Pan. He's played by Robin Williams. Peter Pan has to go back to Neverland because his children are taken there. Very similar to this movie. And then his son, because he and his son are having a fight about, just not having a fun life, basically. Like he doesn't have enough time for his son's hobbies because he's too busy. His son gets tutored by Captain Hook, which I think we just all need to go back and appreciate Dustin Hoffman as Captain Hook, like trying to like gaslight this kid into believing he's his own son, which is incredible. It's an incredible move.
Yes.
Even having him dress in his same outfit, it's beautifully done. And then, of course, Robin Williams learns the secret of having fun, very much like LeBron does, and rescues his son. The same movie.
Yeah, they probably... I could see someone just being like, look, it's Hook. We're doing Hook. And they're like, oh, okay, it's like basketball Hook. Because, that's pretty much it. And I appreciate LeBron. First of all, LeBron's a better actor than Michael Jordan, right? Period. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying he's a great actor. I'm saying he's
good.
Very, very much better. Jordan is terrible in Space Jam. And he also makes himself more of the bad guy than I think a lot of people might have. You know what I mean? He makes himself a flawed character. Someone explained to him, or he understood, that in order to make a good movie, you have to have a flawed protagonist. And I think a lot of, like, you know, Hulk Hogan movies don't understand that. You know what I mean?
I do. I think LeBron is just generally more mature emotionally at this point in his career than MJ was when he made Space Jam.
Right.
Like for instance, none of LeBron's legacy is at stake at all.
Yeah, exactly.
In this movie, which I think is a wise choice for him and for this movie, because it's like, he doesn't. There's nothing really left for him to prove that this movie is going to actually prove.
Right.
You know, whereas I feel like for MJ, he was still trying to prove something when he made Space Jam.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So LeBron fundamentally doesn't understand how video games work. When his kid is making his own video game, and he's watching it, and I love where the character gets posterized as like it's like a power up, and he goes, "Posterized? Is this not real basketball?" He's like, "No, LeBron, it's not real basketball, man.
Did you need this long?" Yeah. He is like,
but,
he does have to be very dumb at times. Like, the character has to be very dumb, which is like, I don't know, maybe fix that, but...
Yeah, he has to be obviously wrong at the beginning, because you watch, it's basically his kid is not great at basketball, and his kid is really good at making video games, and he's just like, man, don't bother with all that video game shit. This is the you know, you gotta learn basketball, you gotta learn the fundamentals, you're gonna be a big star, and it's like, man, your kid is like, how old is this kid? He's like a teenager. At that point, most parents have learned, like, look, you gotta just let them
be who they are.
But I guess, I mean, maybe not. Maybe that's not true. Maybe a lot of parents are a nightmare.
It's tough because LeBron is that one kid who at age, 10 or whatever, people were already talking about, he's going to be the best NBA player. Like, that was a real thing for him.
Right.
So it does, it's like a plot that works for him, but is weird for a movie.
Yeah, it's also I think silly that his kid is still a whiz at something else. Like,
right.
It would be better if he was just like, I don't like basketball. It's like, what do you like? I don't know, man. Not basketball. You know what I mean? Like, I would have appreciated that more.
I'm above average at math, and he's like, but you're not a superstar at math. No, man, not everyone's a superstar,
Yeah, exactly. That's what it should have been, is not everybody is immediately a whiz at something.
Even if they share the genes of the greatest basketball player of all time, right?
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't make you a genius.
But that's where I'm saying that, this movie feels like they couldn't explore ideas like that because they're making Space Jam.
I think they could have. I think there was room for it, honestly. I just think the video game thing allowed them to do everything visually they wanted to do. That's what it is.
I think this movie is very by the book. I put a timer to it, and everything was happening exactly at the point. Which, they're just this again. They're just going through the motions. They're doing the thing. They're doing it. They're crafting it very well. But they're not trying to go above and beyond. They introduced the idea that Warner Brothers, and I hate this idea, that there's a big giant computer under Warner Brothers where all the characters are. And if that disappears, the characters disappear. It implies that Warner Brothers, the big corporation, owns the ideas. It's like, oh, without us, you don't have these ideas, these characters that were created by artists, if they lived anywhere, it would be in the brains of their creators, not a computer.
I hate to get too technical with you, Dave, but like, this is intellectual property law, which is how these companies think.
I know. I'm saying philosophically, spiritually.
Right. It's not like you couldn't imagine Neo if that server disappeared. I agree with that.
And the Wachowskis are the people who, like, again, in this magical world where these characters exist, they would exist in the brains of the Wachowskis, not in some computer. And Warner Brothers, but you're right, Warner Brothers can't think past that. They're like, no, it's all in our big computer, right?
Right. That's, is if it doesn't make money, it doesn't really exist.
Yeah.
That's a key belief for Warner Brothers. You know?
So Don Cheadle, who, it's really weird when, like, I know actors have to be in this movie, the first Space Jam, but Don Cheadle's such a big actor. It's like, it's weird that he's playing like a fictional character.
I liked him in it.
Oh, I thought he was great in it.
Yeah.
I'm saying that it's the same thing with having what's his name from fucking Seinfeld in the first Space Jam, where it's like
Wayne Knight,
or Sarah Silverman in this, where it's like, no, it's why can't they get to play themselves? And I know the answer is that someone has to be fictional for this movie to work.
Who did Bill Murray play himself in Space Jam?
Yeah, he did. He
okay.
did.
Yeah.
So did Larry Bird, and so on and so forth.
I thought we were missing a single comedy character in this movie, right?
I think there's some people who said no, right? Bill Murray probably said no.
It seems insane that they wouldn't try to bring him back. That seems crazy to me.
I think Michael Jordan said no, and I think it resulted in my favorite and really the only joke that made me laugh.
Loved it. Yeah, loved it. I don't think they ever seriously considered bringing Michael Jordan back.
Maybe not. I
think LeBron probably, if I'm LeBron, I'm like, no, I don't want Michael Jordan in this movie. Because if he's in the movie, it undermines what this is, which is my Space Jam.
Yeah, for people who haven't seen this, they do a part where they go get Michael Jordan, and they show up with Michael B. Jordan.
Who was funny in it.
Who does a great job. He kills it.
And the funny thing is, honestly, for about half a second, when they say they got Michael Jordan and the music hits, I'm like, oh my God, Jordan's going to be in it? Yes! And then you realize, no, it's not going to be him. What are you doing, Adam? Yeah. It's still great, though.
Oh, yeah. So Don Cheadle, I know what the character wants.
Yeah.
He wants to be famous. The idea is the algorithm is writing the movies and wants that recognition.
Right.
I don't know what his plan is, and I never knew. He wants to digitize LeBron to steal his talent, to mix it with his technology to create a magic glowing ball?
I think that the plan is, if you out there won't accept all my ideas as the algorithm, then I'll bring all of you in here where I control everything.
Okay. At one point he says, like, combining his talent, I'll become unstoppable. And he, like, produces this, like, glowing ball in his hand.
Yes. That glowing ball is an email that he sends.
Got it.
Yeah. That's
not what emails look like.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. That's what emails in this world look like. I think it's really just a very simple, like, if you don't approve of me, then I need to control you, because otherwise I can't take it.
Right.
He's a thin-skinned bully type.
Right. I have a structure issue here.
I do too. Yeah, great.
Oh, okay. What's yours?
Well, okay, no. I want to do yours because this is very much a comedy question, I think. So,
okay, mine is a screenwriting question.
Great.
So they have this. They cut to John Cheadle being like, "This is my plan," and then they go to the Warner Brothers technology to the meeting, and they show them the new technology.
Yeah.
And there's parts where like they say, "Oh, this sucks," and they're saying like this was made by our algorithm, and you can see like the cameras are watching and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't it have been more effective to not introduce Don Cheadle until LeBron meets him and have the scene where they go in and they're like, this was thought up by our algorithm, and they watch it and he says like, oh, that's stupid, and they like close up on the cameras watching, and there's like an implication that like, ooh, a higher presence is here watching, and then they get sucked in and they like, doesn't that just seem cleaner? And it
seemed that would have hyped him up a little bit more.
Yeah,
right?
It would have been a better introduction.
Yeah. It's like, it would have been like, oh shit, the algorithm, and then like, because we think we're getting like Hal from 2001: A Space Odyssey, and then it like zooms into the sphere, like, oh no, it's Don Cheadle.
Exactly.
That would have been better. I agree. Yeah, I see that.
Yeah. What was your issue?
Well, my issue was I just felt like there was a lot of missing properties. Like I was like, wait a minute, like we really zeroed in on Harry Potter and Matrix and a few like. But there was a lot of properties that I would have genuinely enjoyed seeing there.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to ask, did you also have that realization?
Yeah, I had a realization of, again, for Warner Brothers, I saw the Animaniacs briefly. At one point I was like, wait, why don't they have speaking roles? Like, what the fuck? Like, it's that where it's like, why not get more of these properties involved, I guess?
I just think, I mean, there's some that definitely don't mix tonally, which is the entire reason I'm asking this question, is to start introducing those characters into this conversation.
Well, the part that really made me, like, probably unreasonably angry, because this felt really lazy. So LeBron gets sucked in, right? He gets sucked into
the sphere. Yeah.
and he flies by all these worlds.
Yes, he does.
And it shows that, like, oh, okay, everything has their own planet. And of those worlds, we see a Game of Thrones world.
Yep.
We see a Harry Potter world.
Yep.
We see a Matrix world.
A Batman world, too, right?
Yeah, a DC world. And then we fly by a Casablanca world.
Loved it. I loved that. Did you hate it?
See, I hated that because I was like, I unless this is the joke and it just went over my head, but like the Matrix, Harry Potter, Game of Thrones, Toon World, DC, those are all alternate universes.
Yeah.
Casablanca just takes place in our world.
Oh, no, that's where you're wrong, Dave. That's where you're wrong. There is no our world, according to Warner. There's just profitable sections that they're taking over.
Yeah.
Like, you're just wrong about that, man.
But like Casablanca isn't profitable. That's what I mean is like that felt like lazy writing because everything else it's like, oh, these are actually universes, like fantasy worlds created by writers. Like that are you could count as a fantasy world and they represent real worlds. Casablanca world is like, what?
I mean,
like that doesn't make any sense.
Well, here's my like
fit with
boring
the themes. Okay.
Here's my boring take on why they included it. I think it just says we also have classic movies.
Yes.
Like, I think that's what it's for.
That's what they're actually doing. They're like, this is for grandma coming into the theater.
Right.
But, like, we've also... It also... See, again, if they were either smarter or had the freedom to, they could recognize that that's what they're doing there is they're taking old movies and turning them into their own, like, world. Yeah. Which old movies aren't a genre. They're just old movies.
I agree. Yeah. I agree. This is a legitimate objection. And yet, if you think that Warner Brothers isn't going to release Casablanca 2, The Reckoning, you're fucking mistaken, Dave. Like,
but
it's
like
coming.
that would have been a really great observation if they're like, it's old movie world, and they like lump it as a genre.
Right.
And it's
yeah.
showing how cynical they are. But no, it's just...
It's not earnest
Casablanca
enough.
world. Yeah.
Yeah. Just a couple. I just want to go through a couple properties that I really feel like really could have enhanced this movie.
Okay. Yeah.
The Exorcist, notably absent. Yeah. Can you imagine? There's just like some vomiting, spinning head kid back there.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah. Unforgiven. Just have like
Unforgiven.
Walter. Yeah. Just have Gene Hackman back there, demythologizing this basketball game. The Hangover. I actually think The Hangover could have legit.
They could have fit in. That's easy. You just get a couple of the actors. They're not doing anything.
Yeah,
they'll do it.
Yeah, Ocean's 11. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I enjoyed that idea. All those Hobbit movies.
That was going to be my question. Is the Lord of the Rings a Warner Brothers?
I think the Hobbits are.
Are the others? Because no one gives a shit about the Hobbits.
Well, of course, that's why they weren't present.
But like, I assumed they couldn't include Gandalf and Lord of the Rings because they just couldn't, you know?
I think the Hobbits are. I just want to make sure. If I'm wrong about this, somebody's going to roast me, so I don't want to be totally wrong.
Right. Well, while you're looking that up, Goodfellas?
Yes, that's the one I was going to... Yes. Yep. Can you imagine?
The
Holy
Fugitive?
Shit. I didn't kill my wife. He's back there declaiming how he didn't kill his wife, and everyone's like, dude, we're watching the basketball game, man.
Yeah. Shawshank Redemption. Get that Shawshank in there.
Yeah, it really would have been good. I'm looking here to see...
Inception. Christopher Nolan's Batman would have been fun.
Yeah, it's weird that's a weird omission that the Nolan
because
Batman's out there.
I think there's executives that are like, I think there was a frustration here, as I think there were executives who were like, you got to do the new stuff, got to get the new stuff. You know, we gotta show them that we're still doing new stuff. But all they really had was like the new Wonder Woman, because
right.
Are they gonna put the Zack Snyder shit in this? They didn't.
So the Warner Brothers did make the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit films, but my understanding is they no longer control the film rights.
Right, that makes sense.
They've reverted to Middle Earth Enterprises.
Right.
So yeah, that's probably why they weren't in there, because it's weird that they weren't.
Sherlock Holmes is Warner Brothers.
Yep, could have been in that. I mean, also we're completely avoiding all the HBO properties that would have just been incredible. You know, like like any of those characters from Carnival or like just fucking, like fucking Al from Deadwood is over here, like soliloquying about this bullshit of a basketball game. Yeah, we're really missing out on this shit.
Yeah, I'd love for them to have done like, I don't even know if it's a Warner Brothers, a movie like The Cell, and like to really feature it, like really like, it's like a big part of it.
Yeah, Suspiria. That kind of movie. Yeah. Streetcar Named Desire. It's a fucking...
Yeah.
I could go on forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does feel like they could have done more with that. They honestly could have. So he meets Bugs Bunny, who has gone insane because he has been isolated on Toon World because they all abandoned him for reasons that are unclear.
It appears to be that I agree, because the mechanics of that are weird. The idea is that the algorithm convinced all the Toons they could be the stars of other properties. Yes. And so the Toons are all basically like occupying pieces of different movies, like Mad Max, I guess, and Matrix and other movies. It's like, so I don't understand. Are they rewriting these movies for Toons? I don't get the idea here.
Yeah, it brought up some big questions, because what happens is they start grabbing the Toons from the worlds that they're occupying.
Right.
And he wants to get Superman, which I'm still unclear of why he never does, because Bugs is just like, no, we'll get these people instead, and he doesn't push back. So yeah, Bugs is insane. He tells him his plan. Bugs like tries to kill him with a truck and stuff.
Yeah,
he's out of control. He's unhinged.
Yeah.
They start going to these worlds like Austin Powers. Rick and Morty show up and give them Taz, The Matrix, fucking Mad Max. And I guess my question is, at this point, what are these worlds? Because
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Because they seem to be worlds that they're just occupying like any other world, and they have free will on it. But then they're occupying scenes from the movies. So to me, that implies that these characters are just in a loop, acting out their movies over and over again in these worlds.
That's the only conclusion I can come to. I mean, it feels like a little bit like the Toons are they're being themselves in the movie, but they're also sort of like they've like upgraded by being in more serious properties, right? Is that's the thing?
I think they just like got in a rocket ship, went into those worlds, and now they're existing in those worlds. But from what I can tell, they aren't like doing something, their own thing in the world. They're acting out parts of the movies.
A lot of them are, yes.
Yeah, to me that implies that the movies are just on this loop in these, I can't even begin to understand how this translates to like computer code. But I think it's like the movies are just existing as files on a loop.
And the Toons rewrite them slightly?
I think so.
So they're sort of like a virus. The Looney Tunes are like a virus.
I think so.
Yeah.
And I think it makes me wonder, like, the amount, like Bugs Bunny, at one point they kill Bugs Bunny and bring him back, like, a minute later. And it's like, why do you even do that?
Yeah.
But, like, alongside the fact that there's no stakes because they bring them back, I don't think they have souls, right? Because otherwise, we talked about the Droogs being in it. I saw Pennywise the Clown in this.
Yes, I did too. I was very shocked by that inclusion.
He wasn't really acting like Pennywise. He was acting like a clown. Like whoever was doing, who performed as Pennywise, either didn't see the movie or was told not to act anything like Pennywise. Because they're not doing Pennywise. And it made me think like, okay, so are these characters, do they have the lusts and wants of these characters? If so, Pennywise should be eating LeBron's kid, right?
Yeah, obviously. Yes. It's an obvious problem.
But they're not. They're spectators watching. So it makes me feel like they're more like programs where they just, Don Cheadle brought them in and they're just like NPCs. They're not, they just look like the characters, but they're not really the characters.
They're cardboard cutouts. They're the impression of what if they were there. Because, like you said, if you were to bring any of those characters and have them act like themselves in that movie audience, that's the movie. The basketball game no longer matters. It's that's the movie.
So what this comes down to is it's a movie about a singular computer trapping them, and they're just fighting the computer. Everything in here is a construct of the computer. None of it actually has its own free will. Okay.
Except for presumably the human characters. No, his son too.
Oh, and his son, yes. Except for the human characters. I was very unclear about how the teleporting worked, because he uses the son's phone. He like steals his tech, but his tech just scans people.
His code.
Yeah,
There's an app on the phone that apparently the kid created that the algorithm needed to enhance the players for the game.
Right, but all it did was like scan their movements, and somehow he uses that to suck people into the world. Also, that little robot comes when it steals the code.
Did you notice that? I did
Yeah.
notice that. It was it was something to behold. It was a sight to behold. So they say very carefully that app, or stealing the app, meaning that the scanning app is actually connected to the video game that he's creating, which they do show us.
Right.
But it's very messy.
But how does that teleport people into the into the computer?
I'm sorry, Dave. There's no explanation for that. Like, it's like, none of that is anything. Okay. Sorry. If that's what we're like sleuthing about, I'm out, man. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say about that. It is impossible. Why is Damian Lillard's whole thing being a strange Time Lord? You know, when it's because of the pun. It's Dame time. So, like, that means he's a Time Lord? I don't know, man. Not thrilled.
Yeah. No, it's weird.
Yeah.
It's very weird.
Yeah.
Do you notice the Chappelle Show reference?
There were so many things. No, I didn't. But tell what happened.
When the granny wins, she says game blouses, which is a reference to a Chappelle Show sketch about Prince. That was a weird one.
They had a lot of little winks.
They had a wink to Back to the Future, and it was like, you don't own that property.
They don't. Are you sure?
That's Universal.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take your word for it because I don't want to search for everything.
Well, Universal Studios has all the Back to the Future shit.
Right.
I don't know the legality of this shit.
They probably licensed it.
Yeah. So here's what makes Porky Pigs so creepy.
Thank you.
Are you ready?
Oh, I mean, I enjoyed the hip hop, so I hope you're not going to take that away from me.
The hip hop was good.
Okay.
When they first run into him, he is all right. Number one,
he's filming the Daffy
Superman
Duck.
thing.
Daffy Duck playing Superman poorly as a train is hurtling toward an orphanage.
Right.
So
number one, he's the color of flesh.
Yeah, it's weird.
He's a pig.
Yeah.
Number two, he looks like a short little old man. And then number three, it's not that he doesn't have pants. It's that he doesn't have pants, and then his top is very formal. He has a bow tie, a sweater, and an undershirt. So he looks like a little old man. He's dressing like a little old man, and he doesn't have pants.
Yeah, he's Pooh Bearing. Yeah.
And it's weird. Like, not like a lot of characters don't have pants. Pooh, for one.
Yeah.
But a lot of other Looney Tunes. Porky Pig is the only one who just feels wrong.
You think it's the
tail? It
tail?
feels like he's a pervert.
The
tail doesn't help. The tail does not help.
Yeah, the tail does
it's
imply...
it's like a reverse dick.
Yeah. The tail implies there's more things to see down there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree with that. Also, just the stuttering and like there's a lot of tropey, creepy guy stuff attached to poor Porky.
Right, but for me, it's mostly no pants with a very fancy top and the flesh color.
I don't know
if he had feathers, that'd be one thing. But like if you cover Porky Pig's head, it just looks like a fleshy man without pants.
Well, I think he has hooves, doesn't he? Doesn't he have hooves?
Right. So like a satyr. Like he's just
right.
Yeah.
I don't think you have to think of him as flesh-colored tape. I think that's a choice you're making.
Sure.
Like I'm not saying it's outlandish.
I mean, not all flesh, but like he is the color of like it's more like he's just flesh.
He's
like
a squirmy.
He doesn't have fur.
Yeah.
He doesn't have like Pooh Bear has fur, and I think fur goes a long way.
Right.
In not making cartoon characters creepy.
That's interesting, yeah, because like it does imply that like maybe that dick that Donald Duck has is like concealed by feathers or something.
Exactly.
What's concealing Porky Pig's screw-shaped dong?
Exactly.
Probably nothing.
Exactly. Nothing.
Yeah, probably
It would
nothing.
just be hanging out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It probably is. I mean, that's probably what's happening. Also, just imagine the incredible discomfort everybody has that he's wearing those like ties and bow ties and shit. Like, yeah, dressing himself in the morning in a mirror, just like you look great today. Look great,
right?
You know, like really thinks he's nailed it. Before he goes to the fucking get together or whatever,
right?
Little
Can
notes
I ask
to himself.
you?
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, of course.
Did it seem really fun to be in the audience of this?
I don't think it seems really fun to be in any close proximity to that many people.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't know. I mean, I think that it's definitely felt like, you know, a sporting event hyped up to 10, right? Like that's the idea.
It's not even that. Like so what happens is when they start the game, they teleport like they put out an app. Don Cheadle puts out an app promising this awesome game. So anybody who wants to see this game gets teleported into Toon World. I wouldn't even watch the game. That looked like a really cool world, and I think I would have walked around a lot.
Yeah.
And then there's like characters from movies running around. Like it just seems like it'd be a lot of fun.
Just missed opportunities for the average viewer, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's
I
nothing
see
the
that.
movie had to do wrong or had to do differently. I just thought it just occurred to me how cool.
Well,
I don't know, that world was.
See, and I think it would be very difficult to enjoy that basketball game. And here's why. It's not that it's not a spectacle. How do you even know, like, you don't really know how well you're doing or what it's going to take to win.
Thank you.
Because the points, like, the fact that the points don't really matter or that they're incredibly arbitrary, like, the entire game was determined by Wile E. Coyote's Acme apparatus, right?
Yes.
That's what won the whole game for him. That's the MVP, by the way, not LeBron. Just letting everyone know. I think, but the thing about sports is that like the rules mean you understand what each scenario means, and so like you get invested in the moment to moment. Like, oh man, if we get this 3, then we're within 5, like that kind of stuff.
Right.
And this movie was like none of the points matter, just none of it fucking matters.
I wrote this down because I think this is the biggest problem, or one of the biggest problems of the movie, is that about 40 minutes left of the movie, the basketball game starts. And it's the rest of the movie.
It's longer than that.
More or less.
It's about an hour, FYI.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so the halfway point is where they start, where the basketball game, like where the court shows up.
Yeah.
And so that's a smart instinct because like sports movies, it's like, yeah, you want to have the sports. But as you pointed out, there are no stakes because there are no rules. And that's a big problem. And I would say the first Space Jam also had that problem, but less so. Because in the first Space Jam, they have, you know, the Goon Squad shows up. They're physically opposing. The characters have a challenge, right? They give limitations to Michael Jordan. They're like, you can't do Toon stuff, and of course he breaks out of that at the very end. The idea being that it's like they're not physically matched, you know, and
right.
So Michael Jordan gives them his secret juice. And that's actually just water.
Yeah.
And like encourages them to give it all their best. So there's that halftime speech. And it's still like hard because it's cartoons and there's low stakes, but they at least give it more of a try.
Do they?
This one,
just very briefly, because this is the key issue to me. Do they still abide by the general 3 2-point rules in Space Jam? I don't remember that.
I think they do, but then it gets cartoony. But they're still playing basketball. What they didn't have is style points, which is what
style
this has.
Points. Yeah.
And the problem with style points is they make no sense. They're just whatever the movie needs them to have.
Agreed.
And that's the problem. Is that it's basically the writers being like, okay, this shot for some reason was 1,000,000 points. Well, this shot was only 50 points because of style points. And that's where it kind of fell apart.
Yeah, I mean, once you don't understand how scoring works,
yeah,
you're no longer invested in the game itself. You're just sort of watching the movie play out.
Right. And then near the end, Don Cheadle turns into he turns into the Scorpion King.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
He really did. Yeah.
And he starts reversing the points. And he's like, don't you get it? I am this game. It's my game now. And I don't know why it's suddenly his game now, or why he couldn't do that to begin with.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, so it really means nothing. And then they solve it by creating the glitch that broke his son's game earlier.
Right.
The movie definitely doesn't understand how making video games work, but that's okay.
Sure.
And so whoever performs the glitch will vanish. They'll glitch out of the game. And so they perform it, and then they get one shot in, and then they win. So I guess what that does is, because they say by glitching the game, Don Cheadle doesn't have control. That I don't understand how that works. The game everything should just vanish if it's the same glitch, because that's what happened earlier. But all it does is make him lose, and it's like that's not what the glitch was.
It means that he can no longer control. I mean, I don't know why I'm explaining this to you.
I know.
Right.
No, I know what they said, but
Yeah,
it
you're
doesn't
right.
make sense
No,
because
it
the
doesn't make
glitch
sense.
earlier just wiped out the game.
Yeah.
And so if they had wiped out the world, that'd be one thing. But the glitch just makes it so that they win.
Right. Yeah, it's a MacGuffin. It's a MacGuffin technique.
Yeah.
Using the MacGuffin move. You know?
Right. And
Yeah.
so again, the first Space Jam, it was like, we just have to get more points. And
Right.
then he goes in
Yeah,
for the winning point. But they add these weird layers to it where it does feel like the rules don't matter, and that they didn't really have to play out the basketball game.
I agree with you. Because of that, I got more focused on the dramatic units, if you will.
Yeah.
Like the emotional drama units. And that's why I think Don Cheadle turning into just sort of Hulk Don Cheadle was a mistake.
Yeah.
You know, it's not. I like the idea that he transformed, but that's the moment where he should transform into something that we recognize. That's a reference, right? Honestly,
unfortunately, all the Don Cheadle references they can make, I feel like, is under a different company. All the ones the kids want to see.
That's true. Yeah. Well, that's where I was sort of like, why isn't he a Don Cheadle version of Beetlejuice?
Oh, or why couldn't he be
or Voldemort?
Don Cheadle's character in Ocean's 11? He just gets the accent.
The Cockney accent comes back. Oh, we're real Barney now.
That's what we needed.
That would have been great. No, but for real though, I mean, Joker, by the way, is a Warner Brothers movie.
Oh, the Joker is in the background. The Jack Nicholson Joker.
Yeah, that's dumb. Make Don Cheadle the Joker. You know what I mean? I know that sounds like, come on, Adam, fuck you. Why? Because they turned him into a dumb creature.
Yeah.
So let him turn into a recognizable.
No, he's just swole Don Cheadle.
Yeah, he's swole Cheadle.
It's quite frankly very disturbing what he turns
Fair
into.
enough. I mean, yeah, it's gross. Yeah. I don't know. I just think that's if the movie is based around nostalgia, go all the way.
You're right, though. You're extremely right, because here's what it comes down to: is I think they knew, just like in the first Space Jam, this isn't really a sports movie,
right?
Right. So what the things that need to happen are emotional beats, and that's where, honestly, it should. And both Space Jams have this problem. Both end with them getting the winning basket, and it's it's kind of useless because they've established that nothing really matters. Bugs Bunny performs the glitch, right?
Yes, he does.
And then there's this long drawn out death scene, and I was like, "Are you guys gonna kill Bugs Bunny?
No way!" Yeah.
And then he literally just comes back the next scene I'm immortal, and that's the only explanation they give. And it's like, no, he's right. There were no stakes. It was like, you're right, Buds. There was literally no reason for any of this. Good point. Thanks, movie. And so, I think it would have been better if they found a more meta solution, because they do this thing where LeBron starts actually having fun, and that's the whole point.
Yes, right.
Basically, the tunes are a stand-in for his kid. He's too hard on them. He's trying to make them play it like he wants to. And then he's like, no, do your own thing. Have fun. And that's when things start working out. And that's when the kid is like, I want to be on their team. Because Don Cheadle starts becoming, as they start losing, it becomes clear that he doesn't care about anything but winning. And so that's I almost wish there was an ending where it became where it's like, it doesn't even matter if we win. Like it's an emotional climax, and we find a loophole that's not winning or losing the game. You know what I mean?
That's what I thought we were getting when LeBron threw the ball away and like hugged his son.
Right.
I wouldn't have been that mad if like Don Cheadle had like erupted into pixels and been like, love, like that wouldn't have been that bad to me.
That wouldn't have been that bad.
Yeah.
But then they introduced the glitch, and I thought, that's also a good way. Is just shut the game off.
Right.
Like if they just glitched the game, and it was like the ending of 2001, where like they're all float and like, but then they still had to make the basket, and it was like, come on, we're not actually doing a sports game here. Like it doesn't really matter. They should have done like Slapshot, where like a Slapshot is not about playing the game; it's about creating a spectacle. And that's what the style points. You know what would have worked?
I'm ready.
If he hugged his son and the game gave him like style points for that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I really think that would have the ref gives him style points, and I agree. There's so many ways.
And that's how they win. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm being facetious when like the power of love kills the algorithm. Although
but, like,
not entirely.
More or less that, like
just a movie-ease version of why that works.
Yeah.
Because that's what the movie's about. It's not about the game. It's the stakes are love. Does he love his son enough and the right way?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So he should have won for that action, not for Bugs fake risking his toon life.
Yeah.
American Sniper, by the way. That's another movie that could have been represented here.
Also, again, Wood Harris is in this. Why can't he just be Avon Barksdale? I don't see why it's HBO, man. Come on.
The ball like just rolls over to him, and Don Cheadle tries to get it up, but he's like, "Nah, see, this is my joint, man."
Yeah. Have fucking Omar. Have Omar show up.
Oh yeah, get Marlo in there. Get those three guys.
Yeah.
Good luck, Don Cheadle.
Yeah.
Good luck, bro. That would have been
fucking luck.
Yeah, it'd been so good. You just got. That's what would happen. The game. Yeah. That's the real game.
I mean, the thing that would have made this movie, I would say this is my favorite movie, is if they got Idris Elba to show up and play Stringer. That would have been one of the most amazing, because it's like it would cost them so much money to get him. It wouldn't be necessary, but if they just got him to show up, play Stringer Bell for one scene and leave, I'd be
the
like,
ball rolls over
amazing.
to him, and he's like, "Let's see, there's an opportunity here, right?" And then Don Cheadle walks up. He's like, "Give me the ball back." It's like, seems like I can't say nothing to change your mind.
I would have also appreciated if LeBron did get Superman and he just broke Don Cheadle's neck and screamed, and that's how it ends.
Yeah.
Just have bummer Superman creeping everybody out the whole time.
Yep. Staring like bullets at everybody, and it's like, like, what's wrong with Superman? I don't know, man. We'll find out someday.
Yeah, he's not the Superman we thought he was going to be.
He just breaks Don Cheadle's neck. Just viciously breaks it. Yeah.
Ah! Everybody's silent.
Yeah, it's noisy. It's like a noisy, screamy death, and then like he just throws his limp algorithm corpse on the floor.
Yeah. Also, you know what they could have done?
That's one thing. Yeah.
Yeah, here's another thing they could have done. Go into the movie Space Jam. Get Michael Jordan.
Right, of course. I mean, I think that I think everybody was hoping.
Get 90s Michael Jordan to show up and help out. That would be a big... Get all the versions of themselves in that movie.
They should have gotten the wrong Michael Jordan, just like they did, but it's the Michael Jordan who's playing baseball. That's the wrong Jordan.
No, the
baseball Jordan, baby. Hitting a couple of singles.
Yeah. Did you notice that there was a random nun in the audience?
I did. I think she's from The Nun.
Oh my god.
A Warner Brothers property. Yeah.
She didn't look creepy though. She didn't look like the creepy nun. She looked like there was a couple where I was like, I thought I saw a character from fucking what's that movie? Whatever Happened to Baby Jane?
Is that like that's an old movie? They might own that. Actually,
yeah. I swear there was a few characters like that where it's like, oh, that they shouldn't be in that. It's because I was wondering, is she from the movie Doubt? You know, like what?
Amazing.
It could be Sound of Music. I don't know.
They could have had Detective Pikachu. F your eye.
Yeah. No one wants Detective Pikachu. People forgot about that movie real quick.
I thought that people kind of liked that movie, though.
People did at the time, and I think if you go back and watch it, I know why people forgot about it. Because when me and Tom reviewed it, we pointed out it's pretty fucking mediocre, to be honest. I don't know if you saw it.
I did not. I would not.
I think people were really excited of seeing a Pokemon movie because we hadn't really gotten a live action Pokemon.
I cannot fathom why they would be. But go on.
Well, people are fans of the Pokemon. It's not our generation.
Right.
And I think the movie they got was actually pretty mediocre. And I think we all just sort of forgot it because of that reason. Because if you actually go watch the movie, it's like the plot is really fucking boilerplate. It's like this.
Yeah.
Where it's like Hook, where it's like this is just a plot. It's just like, it's just a very straightforward, boring plot.
Yeah. Just one more pitch for who Don Cheadle could have turned into. He could have turned into Johnny Depp as Grindelwald from Fantastic Beasts, and everyone's like, "Boo, no!" And he's like, "That's right, right, I'm back."
That would have been amazing. That would have been so good.
So
Any
mad.
Fantastic Beast reference would be amazing.
But Johnny Depp specifically, I'm fucking back. Can you imagine? Oh, shit. These are great ideas.
But again, because they can't, it's such a bummer. When they show the Harry Potter world, I'm like, that was 10 years ago for them.
I mean, it was the biggest franchise in a very long time, so I don't blame them for celebrating it.
Oh yeah,
but it feels old now. That feels like a pretty dated reference. I agree.
Well, it's a reminder that their best years are behind them for Warner Brothers until something new comes along. The problem I've talked about with Tom all the time, the 2000s were a terrible time for movies. An amazing time for Warner Brothers because they kind of had the only good movies.
Yeah, they had a lot of good movies then, comparatively.
Yeah, the Matrixes, the sequels people don't like, but you know what I mean. They were really hot.
Yeah, the Batsman.
They had the Harry Potters.
Yep.
They had the Nolan Batmans.
Yep.
They were like the future of movies. And then Marvel came along and got bought by Disney. Disney bought everything, and Warner Brothers has spent the last decade desperately trying to get something going, and they did the Snyderverse, which was a failure. They did the new Harry Potters, which was a failure, and so on and so forth. And this movie just felt like a really fucking bittersweet reminder of that.
I mean, yeah, it's tough because they're doing those Godzilla movies.
New stuff. Mad Max was probably the newest good thing, and I guess Rick and Morty
and
that
Godzilla.
They were able. And was Godzilla in this? I saw King Kong.
I think Kong from Godzilla, right?
Oh, yeah. But I mean good I think the new Kongs people are fine with, but they're not
sure, right.
It's not Mad Max, it's not Rick and Morty, it's not people are like this is above and beyond.
I mean, they have Rampage.
Yeah, they sure do. They sure do.
They could have used all those Rampage creatures.
Yeah. They're going through the same issue as Universal, where Universal was like, everybody wants to be their own cinematic universe. Universal famously tried the Dark Universe, which was everybody laughed at. Where it's just that Disney has become the Amazon of movies, and nobody can compete, and nobody should compete.
I agree. Yeah, I think the movie universe thing is sure, let Disney have that. Yeah. And try just making some good movies,
Universal's. I think they learned the lesson, and I think we're watching that happen. But they have my favorite arc with this, where they did the Dark Universe, the Mummy movie. They're like, yeah, we're gonna make it like superheroes. It failed hilariously, and then they put out the Invisible Man remake, which was just a really good movie.
Yeah, it was.
And
very
they're
good movie.
Yeah, who would have known the secret is to just make good movies? And Warner Brothers is this feels kind of a depressing reminder that Warner Brothers is desperate,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You're right. I also think it's when you say desperate, another way to think about it is like trying to compete in this model, which makes all movies feel desperate.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, like this model makes movies seem like a desperate enterprise.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I guess in some sense they are, because it's a lot of money on one ticket. But like, that's not,
I guess when I say desperate,
people don't want to feel bad for the movies. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to feel bad for the movies. Like, it's simple as that. I don't want that.
Yeah, and I did feel bad for this movie. I felt bad for it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a mistake. I think it's a mistake for movies in general to ask the audience to, like, pity them.
Right.
I mean, and that's a thing we're hearing a lot of right now. Like, man, it's hard for us now, man. We don't know about, like, theaters are closing and stuff. And I just think that movies have always been in the public consciousness an escape from problems, not another place to, like, you know, feel like you need to contribute to.
Right.
I don't see that, you know?
The problem is now it's the same as video games, which is that you have to either swing for the fences, you know, to use a basketball term, or you bunt. like you have to make something for $5 million, or you make something for $200 million, and you can't really afford to make anything else. We've talked about this a million times, and that's kind of the problem of what happened to Disney and these big movies. It's just, the shocking part is how little regard they have for the screenwriting process when they're making these expensive ass movies. But that's another conversation.
I mean, I enjoy it when you and I get into not only the mechanics, but sort of the lost respect for screenwriting.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's just the stuff where it's like, how do you make a Star Wars and not plan ahead? It's weird because that's the cheapest part of making a movie. It's weird to me. Like, I get economically why they have to make either gigantic movies or indie films, but what I don't get is why they have to not pay attention to the plots. Why a movie like this can just be Hook, and why they don't have to, it doesn't feel like they're putting in the work that they could put in.
It's a strange thing. It's the problem that a lot of corporations have, and we know this from firsthand experience. Corporations are not that forward-looking a lot of times. Like,
no, they're not.
They're really revenue and quarter driven, and when movies are subject to that, it means that your movie universe becomes like a commodity you have to keep going back to because it's already a proven earner.
Right.
You know,
and it all feels like it's made by an algorithm.
Yeah.
As this movie points out.
Which, by the way, like, wouldn't it have been nice to see them destroy the algorithm at the end? But they didn't do that.
No, because did you notice that this movie didn't present the algorithm as being a bad thing? The concept of the algorithm, they didn't present as being a bad thing. And in fact, the algorithm has intelligence in this.
I think that they are implicitly saying that by making it the villain, right?
Right, but they never really say what you're doing is wrong. He's a creation of Warner Brothers.
No, I mean, it's like you said at the beginning of this podcast, right? Where it's like, well, we all got to leave with a smile on our face. And the only way to do that is for everyone to be having a good time at the behest of this algorithm, which is to us, I mean, to the slightly older moviegoer, it's like, no, the algorithm is the bad guy. We got to kill the bad guy, right? Don't we agree on that? I guess we don't.
Well, yeah, because this movie, like you said, has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people credited for screenplay by. It has 4 people credited for story by.
That's a lot of people. Yeah.
It's an overlap in some of those names, but it's because it was essentially made by a committee or an algorithm.
I mean, I think one of those people is related to Ryan Coogler, whose production company made that.
Oh, okay.
Which tells me...
By the way, director of Undercover Brother, a movie I love, Malcolm D. Lee.
Some of those movies that he has are actually quite good, I think. Like, I think he did a good job directing this.
This isn't about the artists involved, not for me. Every single one of these screenwriters, are probably trying to just make the best work they can. In fact, some of the producers are also there's so many producers.
There are.
These producers are probably also trying to make the best thing they can. The problem is systematic. It's the way these movies are getting made now.
this movie felt like I mean, I don't know, I wasn't there, and I don't want to disparage any of the people I know. My guess is that it has to check a lot of boxes. It just feels like that, right? Like, like I would be surprised. I mean, maybe I would, but I'd be surprised if the original story by writers were like, you know what we need to do? We need to make a movie that celebrates Warner properties.
Right.
Like, I very much doubt that's what they thought about doing. You know, like I bet they were like, let's make LeBron in a Space Jam.
Oh, I'm sure there were some producer who came in, and was like, oh, you know what would be great? If you put a bunch of Warner Brothers properties in there.
Right, like, let's go to the Warner Brothers universe. That's where the space is, you know?
Yeah.
It's, I mean, and I don't know. It's like celebrating your history is not a bad thing in itself.
Not at all. Not at all a bad thing.
As a plot in the movie, though, I start to raise my eyebrow. Like, really? I don't know, man.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like if the DNC or the RNC did a big, let's celebrate how we got here. And it's like, yeah, but I don't like where we are. so it's that where, and then it didn't feel like a genuine celebration. It's kind of, again, the same with Ready Player One, where it's like, look at all these characters, but it's not in anything that's like meaningful enough to really feel like it's celebrating it. As opposed to, frankly, like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which is about corporate takeover of Toontown.
Yep.
To get rid of it.
Yep.
And the tunes, it's just very pure, where they're like, we're just celebrating tunes. We're just celebrating tunes being tunes. And you know how you know we're doing that? It's because we're going to invite every company to put their tunes in this. We're going to figure out a deal. We're going to have Bugs Bunny and Mickey Mouse hanging out. How cool is that? And so I think it's just that it's you're right. There's nothing wrong with celebrating Warner Brothers having a rich history of movies, but it felt so broad. You know what I mean? Like,
I think it would have been, like, this movie, like, honestly, on the premise level, would have improved if the plot was not just the Warner Brothers movie universe, but all movies.
Yes, or just cartoons from Warner Brothers.
That
something
would have been
like
fine
that.
too. Yes.
Yeah. Either hone it in to something relevant, or make it make it Ready Player One, where you're like, we're gonna have fucking Chucky and the Iron Giant and The Shining and everything in this.
And then you don't make your basketball players into weird new monster hybrids. You make them all references, and I
make
think
them all Freddy Krueger, every single one of them.
I can't overestimate or overstate how many times I felt during the last sequence of this movie, Don Cheadle should be any recognizable movie villain. Like,
I can see
should
that.
be Jack from The Shining right now. Like, that's what should be happening.
The shark from Jaws.
The shark from The Meg.
Yeah.
But
again, they don't have Jaws. I don't think they have The Shining.
They have they do have The Shining, and they do have The Meg.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 2 missed opportunities. We can go on and on, man. Like, he could have been that fucking that bear man, that bear costumed man from The Shining.
Yeah,
that would have freaked everybody the fuck out.
Everybody would have been like, "We need to go. This
is upsetting now. What are we doing here?"
Yeah. That said, again, Swole Don Cheadle, there was something... Okay, here's what was weird about that. It was very Scorpion King, because they didn't just make his body CGI. They made his face CGI.
Yeah, it was weird.
Which feels unnecessary, but...
Well, he was younger, if you noticed. They younged
him up.
They younged him up. Yeah.
I don't know what they were trying to do there. I just don't. You know what would have been cool? If you're going to make a CGI person, he should turn into Michael Jordan.
I mean, yes.
From Space Jam. Evil Michael Jordan.
Or just Michael Jordan, let's be honest.
Right, yeah.
But you're right. Because Don Cheadle did this a couple of times. Don Cheadle, not him, but his character, the Algae Rhythm, did this a couple of times.
Algae Rhythm.
When he first met LeBron, he decided to be taller than LeBron as like a way of
right,
undermining what LeBron is. So this Swole Cheadle is essentially like a more LeBron. That's the idea. It's LeBron but more. That's why he's so buff and huge. But I don't think that's super translated.
Yeah.
Like, it was more just like, why is the Scorpion King here and why isn't it The Rock?
If they made him look like evil LeBron, that would have also worked.
Yeah,
but he looks like Don Cheadle.
It's like what's that character in Scott Pilgrim? The evil version of Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah, exactly.
That version of LeBron.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they
Yeah.
didn't do that. That's what I mean. Like, it all came down to, for me, to Casablanca Planet, which was like, you're not thinking too hard about this. It's a lot of like, okay, let's move on. Okay, we got the thing. Let's move on. Like,
I can't tell you
this
though.
part's done.
I cannot tell you though how much I would have enjoyed this movie more if they kept bringing up Casablanca. Like, if they kept like they had Sam with a line once in a while, and like,
Oh yeah.
like that. Honestly, I'm not making a bit right now. I would have really liked that. You know, like
Yeah.
they just keep
Well,
bringing back
again,
Casablanca.
There's a chance if they had given, like, there's a chance for meta jokes that would have been also like a little more like self-deprecating, but a little like still easy on Warner Brothers. They could have done a thing where they're like, oh, you guys keep falling back on Casablanca, huh? You know what I mean? Like, if there was just a little bit of Warner Brothers roasting itself, like a little more self-aware, like that. I think that's what came from the success of Deadpool, right? It's almost like a roast of themselves.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
They could have used a little more self-awareness in this movie to make jokes. Like, if they made jokes about how the new Harry Potters aren't very good, that would have been amazing. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted to see a little more self-awareness like that.
We just keep forgetting that companies, like, because they insist on being seen as people now, and
Right.
us caring about that. So, okay, I'm going to see them as people. They're almost always the same person, and that person is the rich kid who desperately needs friends.
Right.
Like, that's the person they are. So, like, they don't have self-awareness, and they don't have shame.
Right.
You know,
The only thing of all this that felt like it was protected in the writing process of all things was Rick and Morty. Didn't
Well,
Rick
of
and Morty
course.
feel like they went to Justin Roiland and said,
Yeah.
"Can you write their lines?"
Yeah.
Because it felt like they were able to fit it in Rick and Morty while not going to, like, obviously, like, dark because it's a kids movie, while making it feel like, yeah, this is Rick and Morty in this world.
do you think
That's why they didn't last long too. They had to get them in and out real
10
quick.
seconds. Do you think that Justin Roiland made more money on that cameo than he does on one episode of Rick and Morty?
Of course he did. Of course, right?
Probably, which
They
is an upsetting fact.
They probably, honestly, I think Rick and Morty might have been the trickiest one for them because, yes, they own Rick and Morty, I assume. But they must know that I think a lot of these corporations, I've talked to people about this actually, because I've gotten job interviews and stuff from like major game companies that need people to write their blogs and stuff. And they talk about the webpage, the Reddit subreddit, Fellow Kids. You know that one?
No, I don't.
It's based off of the Steve Buscemi meme where he shows up dressed as a teenager and he goes, "Hello, fellow kids."
Oh, yeah.
From 30 Rock. And people make fun of corporations
Yeah.
for doing that. And this guy was telling me, like, we have nightmares about being on that subreddit. Like, we don't want to be that. And it's like, I'm sorry, but you are that. But I understand. So I assume with something like Rick and Morty, they're like, we have to have them involved.
I mean,
Like,
that
it has
tells you...
to, it has to feel like Rick and Morty, like, right? It's we want to be cool. We want Rick and Morty. We want people to be like, oh my god, it's Rick and Morty. So they probably fought for that really hard.
Which succeeded, I would say. I'd say that that endeavor succeeded. By the way, I just realized, like, some smarter internet creator than us is going to make a video about, like, this movie is the story of the algorithm losing, but in reality, the movie itself is the story of the algorithm winning. Like,
Absolutely.
the movie exists as like a sort of is like an inverse counterpoint to the movie that it is.
Right. Yeah, because they'll make a sequel. They'll do this over and over again for all eternity, like Don Cheadle says or threatens.
They'll make another Space Jam.
That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
I was surprised there wasn't a post-credits scene because it's like, why wouldn't there be? Fucking,
I don't think LeBron will do another Space Jam, but there'll be another basketball star of that caliber. Whether they'll be as good, who can say? But there'll be another basketball star like that, and that person will be in a Space Jam for sure.
Yeah, I feel like it's like a package deal where they're like, look, if you win this many times, you get offered a Space Jam. You'll get a Space Jam if you do this, this, and this.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Like, everyone loves to proclaim how we'll never see their like again, and yet Michael Jordan was only out of the league a few years before LeBron showed up, like 3-4 years, 5 years maybe. So I don't know. We'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if in 10 years we're like talking about some new kid.
Yeah.
Who's going to end up being in a Space Jam when we're 60.
Right.
Oh
yeah, we haven't seen the last of Space Jam. I mean, I kind of hope after watching the new Black Widow, me and Tom talked about this a lot. Like, we kind of need, and I don't mean all films, just blockbuster films. We kind of need a reckoning. We kind of need it to fall apart so they can build it back up.
I mean, I think we're in that right now.
I think so, but this made all the money.
Well, yeah, people want movies.
They are, as we speak, planning a sequel to the Tomorrow War because it did good.
I didn't watch it,
and
based on your Twitter.
That's one of the laziest. Yeah, that's one of the laziest movies I've watched. It was such a bummer because it was like it's the fact that these movies are succeeding still, but they feel creatively bankrupt. But they feel tired and lazy. We said this about the new Fast and Furious as well. It felt like they're like, "What are you going to do? Not watch it?" Like they aren't actually paying much attention to the scripts anymore. The plot devices are really cliche. They don't really put in the effort anymore to make it like.
I think we have to check back in about this in like 3 years. And the reason I say that is this period of time is a mulligan because people are so desperate for new content.
You're right, though. You're right. It just reminds me of around 2005 where movies where we're getting like Agent Cody Banks 2 and like kids movies looked like awful. And everything looked cartoony and dumb, and like we were making like the Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider and the Ben Affleck Daredevil, and it was like, what are we doing? Everybody got really like, I think what happened then was CGI. People got too comfortable with CGI and was like, yeah, let's fucking do everything, and they took it for granted, and then people stopped watching. And I think we're at the point where people aren't not watching yet, but they're taking us for granted. They're not really bothering to worry about stuff like story.
Yeah. I mean, I think we have to remember, I don't want to disagree with you because it's true, but we also have to remember that, like, movies always did this. Always.
Well,
like,
absolutely.
From the dawn of time, movies were doing this. It feels bad right now because we're so desperate for a great movie and there aren't that many. And and because we keep getting shoved into these umbrella concept films that I think don't like.
I think it's sad now because I'm only talking about blockbusters, and post-pandemic I think we really do need blockbusters. I went into Black Widow being like, I can't fucking wait to enjoy this.
Yeah.
And then I was like, they really phoned it in. And that made me sad because I wasn't, my expectations were low. I was like, I just need it to be fun. And like even the action was like lazy, and it was like, that's a real shame because we need this. It reminds me of like horror movies in the 90s where like after Scream they were just kind of going through, and it became lazy. You're right. There's always, especially with specific genres, there's always this weird thing we go in and out of. Horror tends to do it a lot.
Yeah.
Where like something big happens and then they coast off that for a very long time. And then people are like, you need to fucking step up your game, and then something else comes along.
I agree. I agree. I mean, it's not even that long of a time. Like I would argue, like, when was Scream released? 1996?
Yeah.
So 3 years later, Blair Witch came out.
Yeah, I think the last time this happened was Christopher Nolan with the Batmans. I think Christopher Nolan made movies feel fresh again, for better or for worse. Like, whether or not you like Christopher Nolan, we hadn't seen something like that in a while. He makes big Hollywood films that also take themselves seriously and have stakes. Like, people can die. People are still mortal in a Christopher Nolan film. You know what I mean? Like in the Batmans, it's grounded, and we hadn't seen that for a while, and we were like, this is amazing.
100%. I mean, there's no question that a well-crafted, emotionally vibrant movie will always feel fresher than the latest blockbuster in a long series of blockbuster. Like a Marvel movie doesn't have the potential that the next great Die Hard does. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying, and I don't mean Die Hard.
Not
I
literally
mean,
Die
not
Hard.
literally
Yeah,
Die
I
Hard.
know.
I mean Die Hard, like the next great new action movie.
Yeah.
You know, like, and by new I mean creatively new. That's what Die Hard
Right.
was when it came out. Like, that movie will always be better than any Marvel movie because Marvel movies have a ceiling.
The fear,
You know?
I think the fear that we all have, and I'm not saying this is a thing that's happening, but I think the fear is that the system, we have this with politics as well, the system becomes so oppressive that it crushes that pattern, that suddenly we can't have those anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the fear is like, I think the fear is very real with the idea of like, oh yeah, Disney owns everything. So it's getting harder and harder to make something that'll revitalize the blockbuster genre and get it through. I don't think we're at a point where that's an actual issue.
No, let me tell you what is an actual legitimate fear I think to have about this. It's that America no longer makes the best movies.
That's fine with me.
Well, you say that but like that will mean it's much harder for you to make movies. That, and also that like that'll be one more. I mean, this is an American point of view, obviously.
Yeah.
That suddenly we're not the exporter of culture. That we're kind of our industry really has to dry up because of that.
I mean, yeah, we're already doing that with like Parasite.
Right.
You know.
Right. Parasite was a
where
great
it's like,
movie.
oh,
100%.
yeah. I'm not too afraid of that as a viewer, because as a viewer, I'm like, fucking bring it on. As long as they're making good movies, that's great. I get what you're saying as a filmmaker, but frankly, I think America needs to be the underdog for films so that we can start making good movies. Like, it has to be destroyed in order, like, basically, we need a point where these corporations are like, what we're doing isn't working anymore.
I agree.
We need to do something new.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like every time I come on this particular podcast with you, we end up in this rant about we gotta stop it, damn it.
Because I think creatively speaking, movies haven't worked in a very long time. Mainstream, like blockbusters, hasn't worked in a very long time. I think people just are, especially younger people, don't know. And mind you, I don't want to act like movies like Indiana Jones are that much more special. There was just a little more freedom for the filmmakers. There was a little more variety. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like, I don't want to talk about the good old days like that, because everything was always stupid. Everything is always stupid, Adam.
I'm aware of that, Dave. We make a living talking about that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm aware of that, Dave. My argument would be that I think the blockbuster system itself is a little broken, and
yes, it's that.
I don't think there's a dearth of talent in the people who want to make films, even in these genres. It's
right.
that the gatekeeping piece, is what's keeping us from enjoying really cool ideas and movies out there.
There's not enough. We've always been creative. We'll never not be. The creative level is always the same. It's the higher ups, right? It's the system.
Well, and there was a hope, I'd say about 10 years ago, there was a hope that the internet and prosumer equipment would sort of make it possible for
right.
those kinds of things to break out. And I think what we found out is that, no, there's always going to be gatekeepers
but also
strangle the content. That's just a fact.
Yeah, also, though, it kind of worked, because I talked to my niece and nephew recently. They don't watch movies. They're the youngest. They don't watch movies. They just watch YouTube. They watch shit on the internet. They'll go on to probably watch streaming. And if you look at the streaming world and the YouTube, it actually is succeeding, right?
And more vibrant.
It's extremely vibrant.
Yeah.
It's extremely creative. They give people, it's more mid-budget. They give creative people. So, like, we're kind of just talking about theater movies. Movies
which
that go into
dying.
the theater. Are dying,
I mean,
creatively and financially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we might just be sort of watching the fall of that mode of entertainment, really.
Yeah. And then, I don't know, we'll just have a bunch of laser tags.
Well, I
around
mean,
the country.
my theory is the same as it always has been, that they'll like that movies may end up becoming sort of more like the carnival. You know, like blockbuster movies where it where it sort of comes to town, like sort of back like it was before Jaws.
But I guess what I was I guess because we've had this conversation a bunch, people are probably sick of hearing it. I guess what I wanted to point out is that there's a financial side to it, but the weird part is that there's also a creative side, unrelated, that does feel like it's suffering. And I guess it probably is because of the corporate, again, like the Star Wars, where it's like, how do you fuck up Star Wars? Like, how do you just write the movies? Like, just write them all at the same time, have a plan. That's the stuff that's weird, is how, like, movies seem to be, the writing side seems to be becoming dumber, and that's really weird because it doesn't cost you anything.
It's becoming more fearful. That's really what it is. It's not that they're dumber. It's that, in fact, it's like, in some ways, it's more a symptom of how smart they are. Because they have identified these are the things that make movies work, like structurally, and we got to do those things.
Right.
And like, if we don't do those things, fans will be mad. So like, but they're not thinking about the movie. They're thinking about reactions and like marketing, and like they're thinking about things that aren't the movie. And I have always believed, and maybe it's just the artist in me, don't think about anything but the movie. Like what makes the best movie. And then, when other people's interests get in the way, you got to move around them. You have to, if you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, that's how almost all the great things get made.
Right. This movie, I don't think is indicative of any problem in Hollywood.
Are you sure about that?
Well, yes, because here's why.
Okay.
It's Space Jam. It's a Space Jam sequel.
So they're allowed to be this way.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what era you're making a Space Jam sequel. It was doomed from the moment someone said, let's make a Space Jam sequel. There's nothing like it. I think this says a lot about the condition of Warner Brothers because of what the plot they chose to showcase Warner Brothers. But like, there was no version of this movie. I think Space Jam is a good reminder that like, yeah, movies kind of sucked in the 90s and they kind of suck now. Like, they were both cynical movies. Both Space Jams are cynical, dumb movies. Like, it's just funny that we're having this conversation about Space Jam because it's Space Jam.
I think that, I just to reiterate, I do believe that some people in this project, I don't know who, but some people in this project had nostalgia for what Space Jam was. Like, I think they were they actually did a really nice job of doing a lot of parallel scenes with the original Space Jam, but really recontextualizing them,
right?
So that you don't notice that. They did a pretty good job of that,
right?
And also making it feel like unique and tailored to the player, which this feels. Like, I think LeBron cared. And I think
I do think people did care in this, but I think that it reminds me of something like the Lego Movie, where when they set out to make a Lego movie, that they sat down and they're like, this feels doomed. We're starting from a bad place. We're starting from, let's make a movie based off a toy that doesn't have any lore to it. And they took that and they actually made a really good idea with it. They could have easily gone the other way with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they could have. You're absolutely right.
So I think there's this place of where you set out to make a Space Jam sequel. You're like, look, the world is against us. Everything is against us.
I think this is a little bit of a Dave theory, but I'm ready for it.
Oh, I'm just saying that when you're setting out to make a Space Jam sequel, you're set up to fail creatively. That's a challenge. It's like a writing prompt. It's you know what I mean? It's
I
like
do know what you mean. Yeah.
It's like making a sequel to fucking Schindler's List. It's like, well, there's no good way to do this. So you either have to try and probably fail, or you have to do something that people just didn't see coming. I don't think this did either. I don't think it did something that's going to be remembered. I don't think it was as cynical as it could have been either.
No.
The father-son thing was a good angle.
And it worked good. It worked well. It's not a Twilight movie. I will always go back and say the Twilight movies are the most cynical movies I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's like like all time. I've
The
never
most
seen
cynical and erotic films, yes.
Every time I think of that, I can show you the world fucking wolf ride. Like, I never think that's like the one enduring image of that franchise to me. No,
So good.
but like not to get into fucking Twilight again, but like
Yeah.
but like aren't those the most cynical movies? Like to me, that's the bench for like movies where nobody cared enough.
All right, I do and I don't, because I think the writer of Twilight, that
You mean the
maniac
author.
lady,
The author of Twilight. Yeah, okay.
I think she really thought she like. Wait, I was talking about this with someone. Is that doesn't it feel like any of us could just write a young adult novel and make $1 million?
No, it doesn't, because I don't think we have the right fucking juice for that.
The right jizz for that?
The right juice, like the right
Juice.
Yeah.
Well, okay, but this is what I think the right juice is.
Okay.
Is that you have to make it unironically. That's why.
How you couldn't do that? Neither of us could do that, Dave.
Exactly. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Is that you can't actually. It feels like the easiest thing in the world to make a young adult novel and make $1 million, but then you realize you have to make it earnestly.
Yeah, you have to believe
That
in it. You got to believe.
Kids can
Dave.
smell your bullshit. Yeah. And so that's what I mean about Twilight. Is Twilight doesn't feel cynical because it succeeded and there was someone behind it who actually cared. What felt cynical is
Everybody from her to the screen.
yes, and everything that came after. Same with the Hunger Games, like the Insurgent films, the ones that like the Percy Jackson, like the movies that clearly were like, we're trying to bank off of this phenomenon.
Wait, so I'm sorry. You mean everything else that was vampire based or
Young adult based.
Young adult based. I see.
The things they came after where the companies are like, we have to do our own Harry Potter. We have to do our own Twilight.
Well, that's what I mean.
That felt
Twilight-
more cynical to me.
Twilight is that though, because Harry Potter came first, man.
I know, but I think Twilight is actually unique enough to have started its own little stupid. Because Twilight was like the first that was like a stupid romance novel.
I can't in the deepest, darkest caves of my heart, Dave, believe that you were defending Twilight.
I'm not
as
like I'm not
being
saying that
sincere.
it didn't.
No,
I'm not saying that it didn't start from a cynical place too. I'm saying that there are just more cynical films than that. We started this by you saying this was the most.
I still
I'm
believe
saying that there's others that are way worse.
What do you got?
If you
Like,
watch
I've-
the Percy Jacksons.
I
The
don't
Percy
know, Dave.
Jacksons
I
are
don't
some
know.
of the most pathetic Harry Potter cash grabs. Not the
Okay.
books. I'm not saying anything about the books. The movies are absolutely lazy.
I had no idea there was more than one. I had no
Yeah.
idea there was more than one of those movies. Okay.
The ones that's
Wow.
what I'm saying is the ones that are really bad are also the ones that failed because the youth saw it and they're like, no, fuck you. You know, like I see what you're trying to do. It's the fellow kids. They caught on to it. So
I don't think that this Space Jam is any worse than like The Rock's version of Die Hard. What was that? The tower movie?
Skyscraper?
Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
as far as like a reprint of an idea, but like a complete repackage of an idea, but modernized.
I think the problem with this movie isn't that it's bad; it's that it's fine. And then in a month, we're going to be like, remember how there was a Space Jam remake? You know what I mean? Like that's what it is.
Well,
and
this is where I think the real darkness is, Dave. I don't think we're going to get to forget this Space Jam reunion.
You don't think so?
No, I think that we're going to keep hearing about it for various reasons. One of which being the NBA is going to keep marketing it. LeBron is changing his actual number of his jersey to match the number of the jersey from Space Jam next season.
Oh no!
Oh yeah, dude. Oh yeah, it's happening.
I think no amount of effort they can put into this movie will make people remember it, though, because I think this is ultimately the biggest crime of modern blockbusters, is a lack of boldness. Right? Everything is just fine. The new Black Widow, same thing. It was just fine, and they know the new Fast and Furious, just fine, because they know they have this name attached, and all they need to do is get people into the theater that first weekend and make all their money. That's a lot of movies now, is that they're just like, look,
Yep.
we don't have to like make this last. This isn't like nobody's buying DVDs anymore. No one needs to, or rather Blu-rays. We don't need this to stand the test of time. We just need to make a bunch of money now, and then this film can go away forever. and everybody will just forget it. And I think this is that, where it's like they did just enough that people are going to be like, yeah, let's go see it. And they'll walk out of it and be like, yeah, that's good. And by the time they get home, they'll be like, I can't remember a thing that happened in that movie.
Yeah. I mean, do you think man, this is like going to get real philosophical, but like it makes me realize like how many corporations make products this way. Like for instance, everybody complains about your phone, right? Like your phone only lasts a year or two and then it dies.
Yeah.
Was that the intention for the original iPhone? Was the original iPhone supposed to last a year or two and then be replaced by a new model?
I don't think so, but
I don't think
that's
so
definitely
either.
how it goes. And you're right, movies are now that too. It's the planned obsolescence, right?
Right. Yeah.
Movies feel that way too, where they're like, we just need you to scramble for it, and then once you give us all your money in the box office, move on to the next thing. Don't worry about that. Like there's no serious fan bases like that. There's nothing where it's like there's no Star Wars nerds, you know? Like there's nothing that like grab people's attention and imagination and they won't let go of it.
Dave, this is why you and I need to write our intern battle royale limited series show.
Okay.
Like it's just following the lives of like 7 or 8 interns, and they're murdering each other for a job, and then at the end of it, at the end of the series, one of them gets the job. Like that's it.
Yeah.
You know, we can cash in on this obsolescence. Why couldn't we do it?
Why can't we write Space Jam 3, Adam? Get in on the ground floor.
You want to pick a player, Dave? Please pick a person you think could be in Space Jam 3. Please do
I'll
that
get back
for me.
to you on that.
No, do it now, Dave. Can't you identify a basketball player?
Well,
any basketball player.
A single basketball player
That's not
working
LeBron.
today.
Can you do it? Oh,
nope.
shit. This is so good.
Hold on, Adam. Hold on.
You can't fucking Google it, you cheating bastard.
Basketball
There were 4
players
other people in the fucking movie
today.
you could have named.
Kevin Durant.
Yeah. I named him earlier, and you're like, I don't know what any of that means. Great, Dave. Thank you. Yes, we're definitely the right guys to write. To write SJ3.
Yeah, we can do it.
Yeah, we can do it.
You'll handle the sports. I'll handle the sports.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, maybe you should, because that's who handled the sports for this movie. I feel like it was a real Dave behind the sports here.
Yeah.
You know, like let's add like 1,000 style points for that, and then like this guy gets 2 points for a 3-pointer.
Right.
Okay.
Sure. Whatever. Who gives a shit?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we did it.
Do we want to wrap this up?
I don't know. We're only at the 2-hour mark, roughly.
Tom
So
would be
you
so
tell me.
mad at us.
Oh, Tom, we're really causing another whole wave of grief. Like, that's what's happening right now.
Somewhere Tom has a stomach ache, and he's like, I don't know why. Why do I feel like this?
Yeah, why? I'm just recovering.
Yeah.
I thought, nope, he's hurting. Sorry, Tom. We love you,
Sorry, Tom. We love you, Tom.
Yeah, but I'm done with it. I'm done with this. Are you done with it?
Yeah, no, I'm done with this.
Okay.
It's fine. It's fine, guys. The movie's fine. It's totally fine.
I honestly think that a lot of people will enjoy it if you go in and be like, just, expect it to be Space Jam. Like, if you expect that, I think you'll be fine with it.
I have a big recommendation. Take mushrooms before seeing this movie.
Ooh.
I did that before the movie Chicago, and I had a great time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I also took acid before watching American Pie 2. Great film. On acid. Great film.
We just drug watched. We just drug watched as another.
Yeah, we just tried to watch.
That's another podcast series for you.
If you get high enough, this would be a fun movie. You'd love this.
all the splashy colored lights and stuff, like the neon and everything.
First time I saw Shrek, I was high out of my mind, and I remember like laughing so hard at that movie because I was so high.
Just all the references, right?
Yeah.
By the way, Shrek is where it all went wrong. Like just
Kinda,
like that Shrek is like a real cinematic ground zero.
The meta stuff,
Yeah.
Remember how smart we thought the meta stuff was? We were like, oh my god.
No, it's ground zero.
I haven't watched. Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we watch like Shrek 3?
You and I?
Do a podcast about it? Yeah.
Dude, we can watch whatever you... I mean, aren't we supposed to be watching some kids bullshit? Isn't that a thing we've tentatively agreed to?
Yeah. We got a bunch of shit. We got.
Whatever, Dave. You call me. We'll watch it. I'll suffer with you.
Okay.
You know? Yeah.
For
I'll watch
now,
Shrek 3.
Adam, you want to plug stuff?
Sure.
You wanna
Yeah. You can find all of the other podcasts I do on their sister network, the Small Beans Network, where I have 3 podcasts. You probably know their names, but briefly, they are One-Upsmanship, they are Director-Piece Theater, and they are I'll Show You Mine If You Show Me Yours. I think you'd like them all, about various topics. You can follow me streaming, which I stream pretty regularly, on Twitch at The Real Gans with a Z. Right now, we're streaming Zelda, the Skyward Sword. Yeah, it's interesting. And I'm also streaming Dark Souls, which I'm going to figure out. I'm going to beat it, Dave. It's going to happen.
Okay.
So that's all for now.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm going to stream soon, too, just because I've been off for like a week and a half.
You need to.
Yeah, me and Tom Ryman, we have a Patreon. Patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. There's exclusive podcasts on there, like Tom and Jeff Watch Batman and Fox Mulder's Maniac and Star Trek The Next Futurama. We're in the middle of a small break because Tom is away. But I'm setting up some stuff. I'm sure we'll have a hype cast later this week.
Ooh.
I'm setting up a small mini series with Jason Pargin.
Ooh.
It was based off one of his ideas. So that's gonna be a million hours long.
Is it Jobcast? Are you going to talk about Job? The Book of Job?
We should. Yeah, Jobcast with Jason Pargin.
Jobcast.
No, yeah, my point is that we're going to have some stuff on the horizon just kind of to keep you all busy while Tom is away. And, I don't know. Check out the Patreon if you haven't. We have a store in TeePublic that we're going to move off of TeePublic soon.
It's a nice Patreon. I really enjoy it there. Yeah, I enjoy it there. It's a nice Patreon.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you for being on. And
Anytime.
Thank you for being new, Tom.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. I hope I filled his tux.
Yeah, you filled. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, you filled it.
He'll give you pointers later. I'm sure he'll email you and.
He's like just a sharp Wittgensteinian outline on how to control Dave is what that's going to be. It's going to be like, step number 1, don't let him get off on the state of movies. And I'll be like, yeah, should have done that.
No, but he does that too. Yeah. I don't know, baby. I'm like water.
Yeah.
You know, you can't grab me.
You're like that. You were like that that Golden State Warrior Klay Thompson who was both water and fire somehow.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, you're like that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't handle water. The best you can do is hold me in your mouth. Like water.
A thing I've tried to do several times since the pandemic's been over.
Yeah. All right, bye.
Bye.